Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Paulo Rubio, also known as GN. Welcome to another episode of FMA Dumpster Fire Podcast. I have a feeling this one's not going to be a dumpster fire because I actually have a guest today. My guest today is Elrik, my buddy Elrik. Elrik, how's it going, brother?
Doing pretty good. It's morning time here in Pasig, Metro
Right
Manila.
on. You're getting your day started off right by getting into it with me. By the way, I appreciate you coming on. And you were like, "Yo, I watched this video of yours about is it better to learn FMA from seminars or regularly attended classes?" We'll go with you first. What do you think?
So it really comes down to you should screen stuff beforehand when it comes to classes because some of them are. I've seen FMA classes where it's like, what the hell are we doing? That was like 3 hours of aerobics.
Yeah.
Or but I'm from a lot of my training's backyard training. So it's like small group. It's like what you have for the Bordeaux. So that's a whole different experience than being in a classroom. I've attended a number of those over the years too. But if you compare the large classroom, some of them seminars are better. You can't
Okay.
really you can't say either one's better, but I appreciate your ideal of uh, a seminar where you're going in there and you're getting information and then you're going to workshop it afterwards. But for me, that's what a good classroom environment should be.
Okay. So that this can be focused and we can get from point to point to point. How about I go make some points right now? I am going to say some negatives from my observations of regularly attending classes. And one of those things, Elric, is the fact that you are not learning at your own pace. You're learning at the class's pace. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that for me that's like that's ineffective learning. And I'll just jump to another topic. So part of my background uh, is education. Like I've worked around them. I've worked around different school systems. And my kids, well, I went to Montessori, and basically, it's frustrating as a parent because you don't. It might be like your kid's stuck for a while. Then one day,
Hmm.
all of a sudden, it's like, when did you start reading? And then it's not like that thing of like they're struggling, they hate to read, they're doing all kinds of nonsensical stuff. It's like all of a sudden they're reading, or all of a sudden they're doing like multiplication and division. And like, how old are you? Why are you doing numbers in the millions? You're like 7,
Yeah.
and you're doing multiplication and division. Like my kid is 11 and he's doing algebra, but that's because that was his interest. And most people, most teaching pedagogy is based on what most everybody did. It's like it's really designed to be keep people stuck in the system for a long time.
Yeah.
It's an inefficient way to learn.
Well, isn't that like FMA classes though?
Well, no, well, I've seen a lot of different things. The really good classes is like there's subject material, and then you break people into smaller groups and you let them workshop it. The classroom should be a workshop. They should be learning to figure stuff out and then figuring out, okay, how do we make this work?
Okay, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's not so much that regular classes are inefficient, but the way in which they are often structured.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah.
What are you seeing over there in the Philippines? What are you seeing as far as how most people are learning? Because I understand there's always going to be anomalies. What's going on down there, brother? Because I'm really curious.
See, I'm biased and I also don't go to classes that don't interest me. So I'm going to, how do I say this? People are still doing exactly what you're talking about,
Okay.
but I'm in a different category because I'm hanging out with instructors where I'm only going into like, invited when it's a sparring day or, it's pressure testing. So for me, once you're getting the basics, that's what you should be doing. You should be pressure testing and doing different types of sparring with this stuff.
within the group that you are fortunate, and I would imagine fortunate is the correct term. When you're fortunate enough to be in an environment where you are around all these instructors, are they all like that, or can a noob jump in with you? I mean, what I'm trying to ask is
Oh yeah, people.
somebody with less experience, are they able to join something like
Yeah,
what you
because
do?
that's it's the Philippines. You know, like when you go to a Filipino person's house, it's like, oh, Auntie, I brought my friend. It's the same shit when this
It's
happens.
no problem. It's like, yeah, come on, no problem.
Yeah, and you know, because folks trust each other, so it's like if they brought them, they're cool. And a lot of times they just sit and watch, but then sometimes it's like, hey, yeah, come and play, and then we titrate, we adjust our skill set and our ability to the people who show up.
Absolutely.
And then if
Hey,
we're
hey,
gonna
by the way, what's the, because that's a great way to do it. What's the wrong way to do it?
um, hurt them so they don't want to come back again.
And that happens, bro, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it does happen. And it shouldn't happen, but it does happen.
and it's something that it only comes through experience. You're gonna, as an instructor, as a person who's getting groups together, you're gonna make mistakes. You know, I remember like it was sometime in my first maybe 5 years of teaching, and afterwards the guy said, "I thought you were really trying to hurt me." And then I was like, "Oh no, no, no! I'm sorry. It's because my background includes judo and this, and then you said you did this and that, so I thought my level of intensity was okay." We talked about it afterwards, so it was all good, but it could have gone wrong. And then I've also thrown people into sparring situations, and then you realize, well, shit, that was unexpected. Like one of my favorite memories was like, two of my students were going at it. One of the first times I said the coaching was, I really want you guys to just go full blast today. This is when I was first getting into sparring, because we really didn't do what I consider sparring the first 10 years. And when they started sparring, and then I'm like, he's kiaing. Wait a second. His ki sounds like he's screaming die. And then I realized the guy was yelling die, die, die. And it was like,
Like for real?
yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, I had to pull up the other guy, said, hold on, break. And I told her, like, you understand what's going on over there? He goes, yeah, I'm a cool. I'm like, okay, keep sparring, And it was a great learning experience for them. But not every instructor would be able to manage that someone was going to a particular place emotionally.
Go. Yeah. Oh man, that's another topic, bro. Managing emotional states and sparring. But first, let me ask you. You said you had to wait like 10 years. You waited 10 years, or it took 10 years before you began to spar. Knowing what you know now, when do you think the right time is to spar? Outside of the whole answer of, everyone's got a different learning pace. Aside from that, generally speaking, when's a good time to start sparring?
Well, given my interest, it's like I don't interact with people, I don't bother teaching unless that's part of it. So I start people off on sparring some type of, they're dealing with a resisting opponent from day one, but it's going to be super isolated. Like, all we're doing is hit, don't be hit, and we're going to work in a specific parameter, maybe ones and twos. And then it's like, okay, here's the footwork we're going to limit it to. But that level of pressure testing for me should be day one.
My man, I totally agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I've met some people who don't ever get there. They're technically perfect when they're slashing the air, but the moment there's any sort of pressure applied, it breaks down, and they feel disappointed by that.
And that it's, I was lucky when I started to spar. Well, first off, I was sparring with my students. So, there's a whole, the way people's minds work. I'm the scary, dangerous one. So there's the advantage of it. But it wasn't until like after a while that I really started to spar with people who like, fuck, they're schooling me bad. But I'm also jumping ahead because in my experience in the Philippines, and then with certain people, I experienced getting dominated in drills where there was pressure testing. But pressure testing in drills is different from pressure testing in sparring. And so that was a huge educational difference.
Wow, pressure testing in drills is so. So where do you draw the line between compartmentalized sparring and when does it, or compartmentalized drilling, and when does it turn to sparring for you?
Um,
Because hand hunting can be a form of sparring, right? But is that
yeah,
sparring or is that a drill?
for me, that's sparring
Okay.
because it's really like I'm trying to win, and a drill has uh, a number of agreements. Like we're gonna stay in this measure. We're only gonna go for these targets. There's gonna be a give and take.
I
If
think
you
that's
have,
it. I think it's the give and take part. It's the give
yeah,
and take part where it's a drill and not sparring. There is no algorithm or formula for defenses and offenses when you're actually sparring. It just happens. Whereas if a drill can be competitive, like you mentioned, but if there is a cadence and an agreement in terms of who does what when, that's not
yeah,
sparring to me.
yeah, and I'd say that's exactly it. And then the basic unit for me is, all FMA has counters. Even if the counter is I'm going to hit them and not
Yeah.
get hit, it's still set up. But I don't think enough people take the time uh, to pressure test those individual skills in that way.
Why do you suppose that is? Because I see this. I agree with you. I
Yeah.
don't.
Uh, I think part of it is like how certain things were taught in terms of when FMA became mainstream, meaning it was like, okay, we're going to teach it in schools, we're going to teach it in martial arts schools, we're going to teach it in seminars. Part of the pedagogy, which is the teaching methodology, was following a Japanese method. So, there's going to be warm ups, we're going to do this, and then we're all going to learn this, that, you know, this is the footwork. I mean, they isolate and separate everything. Where when I got to spend time with the old men, it's like, show me what you know.
I
Well,
lo-
you do like this, and then I would do something, and some of them would go like, "Oh, that won't work," or some of them would just make the shit not work. And then they're like, "Okay, let's play a little bit like this," and then now we'll test it. But that's a different experience because I got to have the experience of that one-on-one passing on of knowledge. Nowadays, people are learning in seminars. They're learning online, so that personal flavor of actually working with someone who's that much more skilled than you, that's a missing element. But that's hard to replicate in this modern age because, you're more likely to meet someone like yourself who is like, yeah, I got classroom instruction, they got classroom instruction, and we've both only been in this for 2-3 years, but we never got that drilling of those individual techniques where when you had that experience of getting dominated by someone else like that, you're like, shit, I got to figure this out. I gotta play with it. I gotta test it. And like, he made it work on me. So I want to see if I can make it work with my friend. And that's the challenge for people to figure out. And when
that
I
sounds
was,
like a benefit to me. That sounds like a benefit to me, though, isn't it?
oh
Because
yeah,
I have no shortage of feeling dominated by opponents. It happens all the time. But it's what you do after that experience that ultimately matters, right? And I think that if you're okay, when you're in a seminar environment, the likelihood of people sparring there is almost zero, because of insurance and the fact that there's a lot of people, the fact that there are strangers watching you. These are all barriers to sparring. Although I've been to seminars where they do spar, or at least you take a couple of guys off to the side and be like, hey, let's really test this out. But for the most part, that doesn't really happen. What value do you think somebody who has very little experience, or maybe at that 4 or 5 year mark like I am, What do you think the value is in going to seminars? What's the true value?
Well, when you're that new into it, one, you don't know what other systems do. You don't know what their fight flavor is. You also don't know, you know, the skill set that exists out there. And when you go to a seminar, that's the benefit. It's like you got people from all kinds of different systems.
Amen.
Uh, you're going to see new methodologies. And then here's the biggest takeaway. Sometimes you're also going to see very different ways of passing on information, and then also getting people to work together. So
You're such a teacher, bro.
yeah,
That, but
absolutely.
but that's 100% right. You know, just by observing the instructor at these seminars and going to a variety of them, you get to see how different people teach.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like the last workshops that I taught, I'm like, geez, man, that was like 15 years ago. They were all sparring workshops because I was working with a group that was actually building up a sports organization. So first day was just on this is how you win at this sport, and this is how you defend in this sport. It was like needed to be, and everybody was actually breaking into groups and sparring. And then the second day was how do you judge and ref this thing? Because we wanted to build a network in different parts of the U.S. for people to do it. And I would think now I'm surprised more people aren't actually. In my mind, I was thinking this is a no-brainer. People should be doing sparring workshops,
Yeah,
sparring seminars.
they really should.
You
They
know,
really should. I just don't feel like the demand is there for the most part. And while it is valuable, I think people in terms when they assess the financial viability of a seminar and they go, okay, I'm going to hold a sparring seminar, there's just not enough people interested. It's just that's the truth.
well, I think part of the problem is safety and
Yes.
injury. So, you know, when I did judo, 3 hour class, 2 hours of it were sparring, right? To get good at FMA, it's the same thing. You need, if you really want to use it, you need to be doing that kind of ratio of 66% of the time is sparring. But you can't do that if you're not doing it in safe ways. You can't do it balls to the wall all the time.
That's
You
right.
need it's 2021. We need to be using safety equipment. We
Right.
need to be using padded equipment, or we need to do what still exists in some of the older systems is they have other forms of sparring that don't cause injuries or minimal injuries, and they know how to control it inside of the way they do things. But you can't do that with a beginner, and I understand that. So that's a different thing. But with padded sticks, you can.
You totally can. You totally can. Elric, what advice might you have for somebody who, just by virtue of where they are, can only have access to, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m., regularly scheduled classes, and they're feeling like, listen, I want to evolve faster than this group. What advice do you have somebody in that situation if they feel stuck or stagnated or slowed down,
Well,
other than attend seminars?
yeah, no. Let's say this is what I would have told myself. I would go back in time. Go go find your friends that you're going to go train with outside of class. Go workshop the stuff outside of class. Test it outside of class. And then bring questions back to class. If you have a good instructor that actually cares about you getting skill, they're going to appreciate your questions. They're going to appreciate, like, hey, I'm concerned about this or that.
That could backfire.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That could backfire. That could be like, oh, what did you see on the internet again, and just get berated by your instructor. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen these days, but I'm pretty sure it does, man.
Well, in some places it will, and in some places it's like, uh, you know, my full repertoire of techniques. I mean, if I'm going to someone else's house, if I'm going there to study, and when I say house, I mean when I'm going to someone else's school, sometimes literally someone's house. I'm not there to show what I know. I'm there to learn from them.
Right.
But and I'm speaking out to the instructors that actually want to actually change the culture and the space of their school, like, okay, let's build up sparring, well, then you're going to actually have to allow certain types of questions and critical thought and testing to happen on your floor. And it's a different way, because it's not the role of what most people think of as a teacher. It's the role of a coach. It's the role of a facilitator. How do you create it so that people can get together in smaller groups and pressure test and give each other feedback? That's a different skill
Yeah.
set. But
Hey, would you say it's necessary for an FMA instructor, if they're going to teach sparring, to jump right in there with their students? Do you think that's a necessity?
no. And
What?
because they might be too old. They could be injured.
Okay, that's
Carlito
fair.
Bonchuk is not going to spar with his students. I'm sorry, you know.
Okay, okay.
And in a limited format, he would spar with them
Oh,
like
he
a hand.
would. Yeah, I was like Carlito, the same Carlito that I know. I'm pretty sure he just,
Yeah, but I'm saying like, okay,
So there's a
you know,
limitation, age being one of them.
yeah,
Okay.
and you can't do it in the same way. And then it's like, there's folks that really know how to break down stuff as a coach. I'm not going to change them as a person.
Okay. This might be a little
So
controversial. If somebody's a good
no, no, I
instructor
mean,
one on,
for
if
me, okay, for my generation and younger, it's a strange red flag for me.
That's what I'm saying, man. Because especially if you see someone like Grand Tuhon Leo Gahe, who at his age still spars. You see someone like Tuhon Philip Jelena at his age, he still spars. And then you see other, like, still people that can be considered in their prime not sparring at all. So for me, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah,
Huge red flag.
and there's something to be said for that. And there's still, but I also want to say it's like there's some people who, now I'm thinking about different things. I get why some people don't. They're caught up into this role of being, a master and, grandmaster now. And they got a lot to lose by getting on the mat with your students. Like, and they won't do it. And I get that. And I can respect that.
Well, I can't, because that's a bed they've made. It's not like someone else put them in that position. It's because they said some shit that they can't back up, and so they're caught in their own web, so to speak. And so I got no sympathy for that whatsoever. If you don't have even look, there's always you can always turn the ship around. You can always say, look, I was wrong about this. It's possible. Look, have you ever seen Balintawak practitioners spar?
Yeah, I've seen different ones. I mean, the videos that I think you've put out and some other folks, I've seen a number of different things, and it takes on different forms, because some of them just like they're not able to go outside of that medio corto context, But what's your point about seeing Balintawak folks spar?
Well, my whole point with that is, like, I love Balintawak as an attribute building system, and this is exactly how GM Bobby characterizes it. It builds up your attributes, and he says a fight is like whack whack. So even that, I can kind of respect that. Okay, I get it, right? Because when you spar, you are delving into the arena of sport, and there are going to be artificialities, and in that respect, I can understand why certain grandmasters will be like, okay, we won't spar, but we're going to put every bit of our focus into attribute building. I can respect that, but I still think there's a huge danger in not sparring, even if that is the philosophy.
Well, here's my
Huge.
point. Or go ahead, go to. As long as they got a student body who's sparring and they're not saying they're all the badass and shit, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
But
I'm cool with
but if
that.
they're,
But
but they're saying I'm the badass and I'm like, you're not getting out there, I'm like, are you really?
no, Balintawak, especially Jim Bobby's Balintawak practitioners, they are not only are they skilled, but they're very humble, right? So they're not going out there saying, "Oh, I'm badass." And truthfully, a lot of his students, spar or have sparred in other avenues, in other arenas, whether that be Kempo or boxing, Muay Thai. It's such a rich and diverse community. But man, I want to see Balintawak sparring so badly because I think it could look extraordinary. Even if you got to stick with the aesthetics of Balintawak, I think it's absolutely possible. And the Balintawak practitioners, I know people like Alex Ormaza, Guru Joe Apostol, um, Tuhon Belton Lubis. These guys spar in other arenas. I would just love for them to get it going with the Balintawak sparring, man. But you said you've seen Balintawak guys spar. Which kind? Who? Where? When did this happen?
Um, well, I've only seen it through videos because I wasn't around it when they got started. But like Mel Orpilla in Vallejo, California, this guy spar.
Who's that guy?
I believe he's under the Villison lineage.
They're all under the Vilician lineage, aren't they? Eventually,
I'm not a
trickle.
Balintawak guy,
Yeah,
so I don't
neither.
know
Yeah,
where no, I mean, like when I say the Villison lineage, it's like a relative of the family
oh, I
who
see.
like carry. It's actually like they're learning from a Villison, someone with that last name, versus
Gotcha.
Tabuada or.
Right, right. I just, man, I that system is so incredible, and I love it so much. And again, it does a lot for me in terms of attributes. It's just I know they're the Balintawak fighters that I know, man. They are slick, you know. They are great fighters, and I wish the system itself would adopt the culture of sparring. But who am I? I'm a nobody, and I'm not one to impose this
But
thing
here's,
onto them.
I'm going to say something that'll piss off some people, but you, we go back 30 years or more and stuff, and a lot of the people who are practicing FMA were still at, a street or poverty level, and they needed this stuff for real life. And then there was still also a culture where street fights would be with sticks. So then people fought with it. And unless people are going to continue to, because that avenue is gone, the art isn't living in the same way when now it's just an attribute development system.
Hey, yeah, yeah. I
And,
see
and
that.
but here's the other thing.
Like Jim Bobby fought. Like we know this. Like he fought
Yeah.
because
Well,
like you said,
yeah, you can
that arena was available. But now we're living in a time of relative peace, and it's not as unstable as it used to be. So that
and you
opportunity
don't,
isn't there.
it's like in my early years of martial arts, just going anywhere, I'm like honing my situational awareness. I'm really honing my mental process of like, hey, that guy there looks iffy. What if this happened or that happened? I mean, I was that paranoid at one point in my life, right? Uh, and some people are like that's not even being paranoid. That's just situational
Yeah,
appropriateness.
sure, sure. By the way, situational awareness is a tactical way of saying mindfulness. I think it's the same
I,
thing.
it
Just being present.
There's more aspects to mindfulness because people aren't aware that we also usually have unconscious worldviews. Like it's that dangerous out there, but it's like someone else goes in an environment. It's like it's dangerous. It's not dangerous. It's
Yeah.
just the palenque. I go here to get my vegetables.
Well, yeah, you're right, man. You're right. It,
You
it
know,
all depends upon your tolerance or your acceptance of your worldview, as you say.
yeah. And I think there's levels of mindfulness, but for me, a key component to be really mindful is what's my mental models that are having me focus on, because then you're in your head about a situation that is possible in the future or might never happen in the future.
Right.
How present and mindful in the moment are you if you're worried about something that won't happen at all?
Absolutely. Elric, do you think it is possible for regularly scheduled classes to cultivate the correct mindset?
Absolutely, but it's on the instructor, and then the lineage, and the worldview of how they see things. Some arts are like, hey, we need to learn how to block first, and other arts are like, hey, we need to attack first and hit first. So it's just like when you get into mindset, then it's like some of those systems are like, I'm teaching self-defense. I'm like, but you're not teaching self-defense technique. You're teaching, beat up people first techniques.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there is preemption has a role within the scope of self defense. I think. I just don't think that. Look, if a regularly scheduled class proposes that they teach them the correct mindset, so here are some things that I think they can fall victim to. Number one, not everyone in there is going to have the same intentions, and therefore, by cultivating a broad linear mindset that is supposed to be appropriate for everybody there, is not going to happen. The other thing is that if they try to do that, it isn't actually a mindset, but it's the culture of the system, the culture of kill, 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 which I think is absolute bullshit. That I don't know why certain PTK people. It's not a mindset. It's not. It's shallow. Number one, and number two, it's friggin' dangerous, right? FMA has a high propensity for cults. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And when I say absolutely, I'm agreeing with that cult thing. Um, if you're so like one of the systems I'm developing myself inside of at this point in my life, the to really make it work, it is a kill first system. But I'm at mature enough at this point in my life to like, no, I'm not even going to go there today because like I'm tired. I didn't get enough sleep, and if someone does X to me, I might start
Yeah.
arguing with them. And if it goes to this, we're going to throw down. So it's like I shouldn't be walking the streets today, right?
Yeah. Or just even your mood. Sometimes you're just in a bad mood
Exactly.
and you're just waiting for somebody to jump at you. Don't you ever get those? I get those. I'm not afraid
Yeah,
to
we're
admit it.
human. We're human. That's part of being human. And bring it back to like an art where it does have that kill first attitude, because it's the system I'm training is a blade system. It's like it makes sense for it, and I'm studying because it's a traditional system for me. Culture is entwined with my martial practice at this point, but that's not appropriate to teach to a general class. And there's some
Absolutely not.
there, and there's some arts that, in my opinion, if you taught it the way of the grandmaster who's a badass about it, some of that stuff's not appropriate for public teaching or even seminar teaching unless it was highly contextualized, which not everybody
Con-
do.
context is key. But I'm also of the opinion, Elric, that doesn't take no skill to kill with a knife. You know what I mean?
No,
Ain't
not at
nothing
all.
that an FMA instructor anywhere in the world can teach. Okay, maybe you disagree with this, but I don't think there's anything that an FMA instructor can teach anyone that is a secret that medical science hasn't figured out. There's no sequence of cuts that you can do that'll be like, wow, that's extra deadly. A 7-year-old is deadly with a knife. My opinion.
But if you're training someone over months, you can make them more dangerous than they need to be,
More
or that's
danger, more
or that's
dangerous than an
appropriate.
MMA fighter, for example. So, like,
Absolutely,
you think so?
yeah. Look at just what do you call it? You train someone that the first thing to do is draw their blade and then cut an artery, and that's happened. That's known in the community.
Do
And
you,
that
th- do you think
school,
that's purposeful?
that school is not even out in the public eye anymore, and they're banned from talking about stuff in public now. But
Yeah,
they
but
were out there for a while.
but knowing where that artery is, right? That is not knowledge that
Hold
is
on a second.
exclusive to that system.
But you're missing the point of what I said.
Okay.
And the key point is you're training someone to operate like that as a
Ah,
reaction.
I got you.
And that's
I got you.
sand mindfulness. You didn't have a thing of like, hey, I screen people if I'm going to train them to move a particular way.
Yeah.
Why would I take the time to develop someone like that if I don't think they can be responsible about that?
Okay. So you're not okay. What are you screening for? Like, how does somebody fail your screening test?
Uh, well, a key one would be like if they can't have critical thought, if I can tell they're still at the stage emotionally that they need like a grandmaster figure. I'm like, I'm not the guy for you.
Okay,
You
this is personal. This is personally speaking. You as an instructor, not you,
Yeah,
not for
you asked
everybody.
me how do they fail my test?
Yes, sir.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you right now. If they're looking for a grandmaster figure, I'm not. They're failed. Boom. You should go over here, study from these people.
I like you, man. That's awesome. But you know what I think often happens is that the people have that same intention, but they think to themselves, as the grandmaster, I can change this guy. I can teach him the ways. I can teach him the right way. And then they are caught up in Tuesday and Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m., and they don't ever get there. You know, they don't ever get there. And this is why I think that seminars, that's a danger in seminars. I'm willing to admit that. Is that there's no screening in seminars. As much as people like to say they screen in seminars, they don't screen in seminars. You sign up to Eventbrite and you pay via PayPal.
All you can do is set up a registration process that you're filtering people as they come in, so that only certain types of people are coming in. Hopefully, they've read or seen the videos that lead up to it, so that they already have an expectation of what they're coming in.
I guess
But
so. I just don't think. I mean, I think it's surface level, and you might as well not do it. Like some people say, "Ah, we screen who comes up to our seminars." I'm like, no, but not really. Like, what are you asking for criminal background checks? And even then, can't people be reformed? I just don't think it actually exists. This whole screening process thing, and where it actually exists is precisely the way you described it, on a personal level, right?
it has to be personal.
Yeah, you can't
That's what
hold a
happened.
seminar that's like there's like 100 open slots and say that you're screening. You are not. You
The
know,
largest gatherings that I've organized, you know, have been close to 100 people. It's not huge, but
that's
uh,
huge. That's a very successful seminar in my opinion. But anyway, sorry.
it's not a seminar. That's like, okay, no one's paying a high amount. That's like people coming together, but it's screened by me talking to every instructor personally. Some people still slip in, but every instructor knows this is what's going to happen. This is what's expected. This is why I'll be asking people to leave, and I get alignment with.
I think
You know,
the screening process is the seminar itself. That's when you really get to see, somebody's acting a certain way. That the seminar is the screening process.
that I agree with too.
Yeah.
Like something I'll do differently is like, okay, I have it like people wearing name tags so that they can, talk to each other as human beings by their name,
What a great idea.
and have an icebreaker. Everyone go say hi to someone, three people you don't know. You
Wow.
tell them why you're coming today.
Oh, you've done this?
Yeah. Well, I'm
That
a
is a
professional facilitator.
you're a
So
what?
it's like, so I go to businesses and they're like, hey, we want to go over, this year's agenda, goals, or this quarter. And then I'm brought in to work with a group of people, and then I get them to talk about stuff. That's what I do professionally. It's one of the things I do professionally. So why wouldn't I do that when I'm also teaching, you
Man.
know,
Elric, you should be okay. Man, I think you should be a consultant for FMA instructors on how to run their classes better, how to screen better, how to cultivate and create a community. How do people get a hold of you? I think that's a great idea because you're a friggin' smart dude, man. Like already in this podcast, you've said some, even just name tags, you know, and you say
simple stuff, right?
you say you have these little games too that instantaneously get a sense of community and people are talking to you. Don't give it all away. I want people to actually contact you and be like, hey, Elric, show me some of these things. I think these are great ideas, bro. Where did you get this stuff from?
um, well, like the first time I actually was paid to teach was working at Boy Scout camp when I was 16. I taught, merit badge classes. And then
That's cool.
my next job was working for West Bay Filipino Multi Services Corporation. It was a drug intervention project. It was called the Filipino Early Intervention Project. And so I was actually getting trained to facilitate workshops with at-risk youth. And like at that time, I'm much older. I'm 17. So it's like literally that's been my life path of I'm usually going back to something around teaching and working with people and working with groups of people. And, I've since gone on to different certifications, different types of training with communication. So it's been part of my path for a while now.
Elric, so you didn't just learn FMA then teach FMA. You know what I mean? You have other elements about you that allow you to teach FMA better, right? I think a lot of people just go like,
That's
"Hey, I'm good at FMA, therefore I'm going to teach FMA." I would highly say, do not do that. Don't just do that, please. What kind of
well,
training have you received or
so like yeah,
experiences have you had?
before I ever taught FMA, I'd been working as a health educator for at least like okay, so I was teaching when I was 19, so I had like 3 years experience teaching workshop stuff experience, so that went into how I taught. But here's the other thing: I taught small groups one on one. I think anyone can learn to do one on one because a good teacher should be facilitating in their space anyway. Like when I was teaching a class, I didn't teach the basics anymore. I had that learned from, their peers in the class. That way they could own the information more. That way they've had that experience passing on knowledge. And
Right.
then working with small groups of people. I mean, I'm going to give away another, for me, it's like basic stuff, but it's like, okay, we're here to class. What do you want? What's your focus today? And everybody says, this is what I'm going to work on. And if it's a large enough class, then you break it up to like a group of six here, a group of six there, group of six there. And then, at the end of the class, did you achieve it or didn't you achieve it? Or,
Like a debrief kind of thing?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing pressure testing as part of your curriculum, you want to get feedback from the people
Right.
who have sparred against you and the people who watched you spar. I
Right.
unless they're training in a football field, not everybody's sparring at the same time, right?
It's true, man. And you know what? You're right. It's such a simple thing, but how important is a debrief at the end of class, especially when you're dealing with knives, you know? Like it's so important. It's like a duh, of course have a debrief.
Yeah. There, it's funny. There's tangents about like, okay, how do you build a skill and then how do you refine it over a time? But you can't do that in a vacuum.
No. Um, Elric, going back to your previous point about one-on-one, learn Filipino with Papa Jetter. He writes regular one-on-one session is best for me, and here's why I think one-on-one classes are good, bro. It's because you can be a terrible teacher and still be an effective teacher if it's one-on-one. It's true. Like if you were to judge my grandfather by his ability to teach at scale, right? It wouldn't be fair because he probably doesn't know how to do that. But one on one, you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
The learning is concentrated to just you, right? So even if he sucks at articulation or if he sucks at communication, just by virtue of it's only you and him. And this is what I think. I think a lot of people who are terrible teachers are still effective teachers on a one-to-one basis. What do you think about that?
No, I 100% agree with that. And, and I think everyone should be practicing that.
Yeah, I think they should start. I think they should start one on one, and I think for the most part, that's how people start. Elric, let's take a break. You are trying to promote this thing right here. Let's go check this out. What is this, bro? What are we looking at here?
So this is just a spreadsheet. And so there's a tab for teachers. There's a tab for systems.
Systems.
There's nothing for events right now because it's a time of COVID. Um,
Sporting groups. What? Oh, this is great.
and that needs to be developed further. And then stores and resources. So this was originally a list because for Metro Manila, and because
Okay.
people come through the Philippines to train. They come to something like Russian House or something for Pakiti Tertia or Doce
Yeah.
Pari. But everyone passes through Metro Manila first, and then they might do a couple things, but then they're missing out on the great Metro Manila scene. But it's since become a list for all of the Philippines. So I think
Bro.
100 entries in there now.
Wow. You got their title and rank, their name, if they're available
And
for online instruction. These are great tabs. Their website, some people with their contact info here. Wow. Wow. Holy
and
crap.
it's a work in progress and stuff because I'm not focused on it, but this is for the community. Right now, there's probably about like 5 people who have access, or maybe like 8 or 9 who have access to it. So some people, it's like, oh, they're entering stuff for their regions. Like there's someone doing it for Negros. Nobody for Cebu yet, which would be great to have. But this is for the greater community to just access
Holy
public instructors.
smokes.
Philippines still has, folks who are just like, no, they're not publicly teaching,
Yeah.
but this is the people who are out there and who want to be contacted.
Yeah, this is a huge service to the FMA community, in my opinion. How do people get their names on this list? So you're saying this is worldwide now? I think eventually you're going to have to partition it, right? To like
Yeah,
geographical
this has to be
locations.
partitioned. But I mean, someone who knows how to use this software, they can actually do, you can filter it or sort by, location
Yeah.
and do those different things. But
You even got stores and oh, wow, this is great.
I think I'll probably just create a tab for international. So I
Okay.
think the tab that says teachers will be Philippines, and then there'll be another one that'll be created that'll be international. And then like, okay. And I think that'll be better because then there'll be more interest in users from around the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's your process right now? Like, this document is public and anyone can edit it, or do they have to go to you to edit it?
So
They
click on the tab that says read first. It's the very first one.
read first. Welcome to the Welcome to the Philippine FMA Filipino Martial Arts Resource List. This is a living document with active contact for instructors, organizations, events, and FMA supplies for the Philippines region. Most of the contacts are available by clicking the names, which are links to their Facebook profiles. For real?
Yeah, click on one.
Oh my God, bro. Okay, well, it's not going to take us there because
Yeah, we're in this software.
yeah, right.
But
That's great. I'm seeing Alvin Gakos right now.
yeah, so
What a service.
if you
What?
go to read first
Okay. Okay.
and you clicked on it, we won't go there now, but it would take you to a document that looks just like this, but that's a public document that anyone can enter stuff on. And then, I'll get a notice in my email and then I'll just transfer it to this document. That
Okay.
way, because of my experiences, what I've seen over the years, I can imagine someone like, I hate this school, I hate that school, and just delete all their information.
Well, with great power comes great responsibility, bro.
So this protects the information from being, or they make it so the links don't work. So right now, this list can't be, only the admins can actually change stuff. But when they click on this welcome page, it'll take them to the document that they can actually enter stuff. And they can also just send me a message on Facebook and say, "Hey, I entered stuff," and then I'll upload it.
Man, this is a great idea. How do again? People know you, right? It's a small community, but for folks who don't, and what are you looking for help for somebody to organize this? Are you willing to give out your email now? And
Just find me on Facebook if you want to be involved with helping add, your part of the world or some of your instructors or your instructor. I mean, usually it's just someone saying, "I want my instructor," or if you're from a larger organization, then they'll add. Like not too long ago, I got a whole bunch of entries for Lightning because they realized, hey, let's put all the Lightning people for the Philippines on here.
okay,
So someone wanted to do that for Pakiti Tertia International or Pakiti Tertia Tactical Association. It's like, sure, let's put all the instructors on there for the international list.
okay. So you want basically you want people to contact you via Facebook?
Yeah,
Okay. Is your stuff public, or are you gonna be inundated with friend requests before you can even talk with them?
I don't accept. I mean, I got like 400 folks in
Okay.
my friends request that I have
Okay.
not accepted. If you
Okay.
don't write to me, I don't know you. There's no need for me to accept you because we have no interaction. But
But they can still message you.
oh yeah, and then it's
Okay.
like I accept a whole bunch. Once I interact with people, I ask them to be my friend. It's not like, I'm all secretive or whatever. And I'm like, hey, but at least we know each other. I know so many people in my different things I do in life that it becomes too much.
Hey, this is frigging amazing, and I can tell that this is in its infancy. But I
Yes.
think when this is all said and done, this is going to be a great resource. And you're not charging anybody to access this stuff, are you?
No, this is for free. This is for the community. I
If
don't
there's
even
some,
consider this my list. I'm just protecting it because there's so many great instructors here in the Philippines that people don't know about. This is just my
absolutely.
little contribution to help those systems get known out there.
That's great, man. That's great. And bro, let's say somebody out there watching this right now is like, that is an inefficient way to do it, Elric. I am a computer programmer. Let me go build you a program. Will you be open to that?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's dumb not to. The other thing, I think I sent you the link in your Facebook Messenger. There's
Yeah.
the link to the map. So I basically was able to filter this document and then create a Filipino martial arts resource map on Google Maps.
Wow. Okay. Oh, because that's what that was. When I clicked on that link, it led me to the FMA discussion uh, forum. So I
Yeah,
thought,
'cause the link's in there. I got to find the actual link, but
okay.
you
Shout
set
out
it
to
up.
FMA discussion, by the way. Great,
Yeah,
great forum. Elric, this is amazing, bro. And the fact that there are hyperlinks. Can I ask you about some of these systems?
sure.
So
I
some of
might
them.
not know some of them.
Okay. Bakbakan Combat Arts.
So Bakken, I mean, that's you know the baby of Topher Ricketts, and then so many
He
others.
started that. Bakbakan is Topher Ricketts' system.
I don't actually. I mean, for me in my mind, it's like entwined, but that was a group. It was really him bringing together people from a lot of different groups together. So like the Ngocho or Five Ancestors Fist Kung Fu of Alex Ko, Lamenko was part of that. A lot of different colors, Illustrismo folks were that. So, but at one point in time, like the early '90s to the mid late '90s, if you wanted an FMA system where people sparred hard, Bakbakin was
Yeah.
one of the groups that you went to, and
Okay.
who's kept it alive is Duran, and he's a guy with great knowledge and a great person to spend time with if you come to Metro Manila.
Bakbakan guys are bangers, eh? I love to hear that. What about this Moro Moro Orabes General? What's that about?
So that's the system of the late Mang Andy Abrian, and he was from Samar, so it's a
Okay.
Waray system. It's he played with heights, meaning like
Levels?
yeah levels. Like he would try to get in close to you, and it's like where shit he's between my legs.
Ooh, some jungle wrestling stuff, man. I love that idea.
Yeah, and it was like yeah he would
That's
jungle
dope.
wrestling stuff is definitely an aspect of that system, and a
Yeah.
lot of different fulcrums, meaning like fulcruming off your knee, fulcruming off your arm.
That's
Um,
jujitsu.
but I'm
By the
talking
way,
about
by the way,
what?
these are descriptors, okay? I'm not saying it's jujitsu or it's
Yeah,
wrestling. I'm just using colorful terms to for me to relate
yeah,
what you're saying. What's
yeah.
we do?
Wedo
Wedo.
is Wedo
We
is the
we do.
mother art of certain Ilonggo systems. So it's from Panay,
Oh,
and I'd say the strongest recognizable element of that is the doblete, the rapalons, or some systems call the redondo, but the circular forward strikes,
wow. Hey
either
man,
for yeah.
we can discuss this forever. We're approaching an hour. I'm gonna get rid of this, bro. I think we should have
Yeah,
a separate
yeah, we didn't even.
podcast.
I was. It's coming to give counter opinions to the
I
other one.
tried,
But
bro. I tried. You just kept
I don't.
agreeing with me. We'll try again at another time, bro. I really appreciate the fact that you even contacted me. Yo, dude, Elric was like, "Hey, man, just watch a podcast about seminars are better than regular classes. I wrote down some notes, and I'm like, I love this guy, and I think you and we agree on a lot of things. We disagree on a lot of things, and I think we find a way to take those differences and alchemize it so that hopefully it benefits the community, and it isn't about our egos.
Yeah, we don't have to agree on everything,
Yeah.
and it's just like, okay, the areas that we agree on, well, then let's play together in those areas.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know,
I think people
Like off
have a
the top
lot
of your
more
head-
in common. Sorry, brother.
Yeah.
Please go.
No, it's like, the culture and history are as important to me as the technical stuff, and as important to me as sparring. But I also get the value in keeping them isolated, especially for folks who don't have access or haven't experienced the cultural things because they're learning, from a great instructor who's a hillbilly in Georgia or something. And there's guys like that, like Chris Caban, who's been doing this stuff for like 20 plus years. If you were in that area, I'm like, even if you weren't in that area, I'd be like, no, you should meet him. He's a great guy to learn from. You actually learn a lot of good FMA from that guy.
But can you
But-
learn culture from Chris Caban?
But you're not going to learn you'll get access to a different culture that's probably awesome and wonderful.
Absolutely. Hey, Felipe Hocano, is it Hocano or Jocano? What does he like? Felipe.
Hocano. Hocano is, yeah.
He gave me some terminologies that I have come to accept, and I think it was very wise. And he said that there's a difference between being able to teach culture and the difference between that and being able to teach cultural information. Right? I think people can teach cultural information, but I think if you're not Filipino, if you haven't lived in the Philippines, I think it might be very difficult for you to teach actual Filipino culture. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
you can only teach the culture when it's a part of yourself already.
Yeah, I think so.
One of my brother's teachers is a Ilocano woman who's been she's now recognized as a master of Bangsamoro dance. Like she's accepted as part of those communities.
Right. It's not about your blood necessarily. Obviously, that
No,
matters, or your
you
skin color. But when you live that culture, that's when
Exactly.
you can teach the culture. Otherwise, you're teaching cultural information.
Context. Yeah, and it's two different things. And if
sir.
there's one request for people who want to pass on cultural stories, please make sure that you're saying this is from my instructor. Say all Filipino culture is, because that's BS. Different regions differ greatly.
And that's the thing, right? It's not like some people say this is the culture of the Philippines, and someone like Felipe Hocano and Elrik will be like, no, it's from this region in the Philippines during this time, mother. And I love how you guys do that. I love how you guys do that. And why is that important to differentiate?
Because then if you really want to understand things, you're going to miss out on things. And part of, like, when I came up in FMA, there was so much cultural stories about this is why we do it, because of this. And then later on, when you find out, actually, they didn't do that in the hometown of that grandmaster. That's bullshit.
Right? There's a lot of that happens. That happens, bro.
Yeah. But so it's like, for me, always at least half of my students have been Phil Ams or Phil others, right? And so there's the
Phil
cultural
others.
Yeah, like Phil Canadians, Phil Australian, Phil
Why
German.
am I others? I get it. I'm just joking. I was just playing with you.
Because you ain't a Phil Am. Well, you're Phil Am.
Okay, sorry. I keep interrupting you. What were you saying?
For some arts to understand, you really need to understand the cultural context of like how they would get into fights, what were their traditional fiesta fights like, and then it's like, oh, that's why we're a Quarto system. Oh, that's why we're a Largo system.
So this is important stuff, and sometimes I can appear to be an uncultured, somebody who doesn't care about that stuff. The reality is that it's not that I don't care about it, is that there's a level of detachment right now, and I do respect that you need to be accurate and I don't feel like I can be representative of that. I can be representative of the Rubios and the De Leons. And
Yeah.
that's when I say Filipino culture, I mean from those two families. And even then, those are two big families, my De Leons and my Rubios,
Yes.
you know?
I'm going to go to the other side of the thing that I'd say for people who want to tell stories about their instructors and the culture. The other thing is for everyone who wants to learn that stuff, always remember the speaker is probably talking about their experience and their experience only.
Oh,
It
what a
doesn't
time for you
apply.
to break up. Say that again. Say that again because you broke up there.
No,
Always remember.
that when someone tells you, "Oh, Filipinos are like this," yeah, based on their experience only.
Got it. Context. Add context.
Like a guy in Manila doesn't know about farmers in Paete. They don't.
Right.
They're city
Right. Right.
boys or girls, whatever.
Yeah. And that's something that I think not a lot of people understand is the incredible diversity in the Philippines amongst, we are bound by being Filipinos, or even then I can't even necessarily say that because some regions in the Philippines may prioritize their region over being Filipino. Just like some Americans will be like, I'm not American, I'm a Texan. That exists
Yeah.
at a heightened level sometimes in the Philippines because it is a group of how many islands? Like 8?
7,108.
No, I was way off. Elrik, I want you to come back on the show to talk about a whole bunch of other things. I want to know the difference between, FMA and MFA. I want to know the status and the state of the pandays or the blacksmiths we have in the Philippines. I want to know how people in the West can make contributions to FMA masters in the Philippines who may be struggling. I want to create these bridges. I think you're a great person to help me do that. And also, your network is incredible. And so whoever you feel like may be able to speak on this with greater authority than you, please send them my way. I'd be more than happy to open up this entire forum. And it's not huge right now, but I'm putting in a lot of effort to make sure that it grows. And for everybody watching, please subscribe because I want this to serve others. It's going to serve me for sure, right? If it's monetized, I'm keeping the money. I'm going to do some good with it. But I'm saying the more this grows, the more good I can do with it.
Yeah.
So a lot of questions.
Well, I think your focus on the sparring and the actual use of it is, for me, that's what I see your channel as great for. And I think that's something I'm particularly interested in seeing the fighting ability in here in the Philippines, but in FMA in general. Mm-hmm. So a channel that's focused on that, I think, is a great new channel.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely fight focused when it comes to FMA, but where I fall short, I would like to call upon people like you, and I want you to feel welcome and at home at this channel because I want this to have diversity. I want it to be focused, but that's what playlists are for. I want this to serve as many people as possible. So thank you very much for being here, Elrik. Any parting words before we get going? We're 3 minutes past our intended deadline. We'll have another chat, but parting words.
Take care. Ingat.
Ingat lang po. Okay. All right. All right, guys. Elrik, thank you very much, my brother. Oh, I just cut him off. Sorry, Elrik. Okay, so that's been Elrik Jundis. Listen, he has this amazing thing, this friggin' document that is, I hope, grows to become the resource for people all over the world to track down different martial art or different Filipino martial arts systems, specific instructors. It's even got stores and it's just a great list. If you guys can help out in any way, or if you would like to have your system or yourself included in this database, go find Elrik Jundis on Facebook. That's what he prefers. So that's what it's gonna be. All right, guys, this has been another episode of the FMA Dumpster Fire podcast. I feel weird calling it that because this was all positivity and service to the community. I promise I'll get back to the shit talking. No, I'm just kidding. But listen, this beautiful conversation with Elrik stemmed from a podcast that I did that may have been deemed divisive or even negative. And so pay attention to what I'm doing. I think I know what I'm doing. I'm at the service of Filipino martial arts, and where execution and specifics may differ, I want you to remember that I love the Filipino martial arts and I want the best for it. Sometimes my opinions about how to go about that may be different from yours, but we're bound by something greater, and that is our love for the Filipino martial arts. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure to hit like and subscribe. And if you don't mind being annoyed once in a while, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss the next time I go online. Thank you all for your participation in this conversation. My name is Paulo Rubio, aka GN.